Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience, the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos. By joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines, we offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am joined today by my fallen friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone. Fallen in this ice.
No, you're fallen from heaven.
Fallen from
You're,
heaven.
You're a fallen angel. You're a fucking demon.
Oh, no. I was about to say, wait, I like that, but never mind.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines. Some recent episodes include Chris Nolan's Inception, the movie Rebel Moon, The Creator, Napoleon, Ridley Scott's new film, shout out, and Society of the Snow, an actually really great Netflix movie. How about that? Remember to leave nice reviews, comments, thoughts, and ideas over on our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. Everything is acceptable.
Everything?
Yep, whatever you want to say over there. Go recommend a movie. Thank you. Give us $1.
Or two.
Or two. We appreciate the help. But today we're discussing a favorite film of 2023, Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall. Got some adulty film for you here.
Adulty?
Like adult, not like X-rated, but like a,
adulty.
This is like an adult film. This is going to bore the shit out of kids kind of thing.
Bore the shit out of me. My child?
Yes.
Is that what you're
saying?
You're
a child. That's what I'm saying, exactly. This seems to be one of the favorites of the year, and I'm happy to report that I think it's okay. I think it's a fine movie. I think there's some really great pieces. I think there's some weird focuses. I think there's some neglected points. But man, what are you thinking about this film? I know it bored the shit out of you.
Yeah, it was pretty boring. It didn't really pick up for me until the third act, maybe the end of the second act, and that's all I have to say. It was hard to watch. Well, it wasn't hard to watch like, Rebel Moon or Little Mermaid or Teenage Kraken, but it was just hard to get into. Visually, it was just okay, so I didn't have that to kind of fall on. I was intrigued. It's, a kind of murder trial crime movie, I guess. I don't know what you would categorize it as, but at least that was intriguing. You had me hooked there. But oh my God, I just couldn't get into it. It was about, 2.5 hours?
It was, yeah.
It felt like 2.5 hours. I thought if I sighed loud enough, you would turn it off, but you didn't.
Did you sigh?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even notice. Yeah, this is a film that I feel like is so close to being, I don't know, intellectually there. I mean, first of all, did she kill her husband?
At first, I thought she totally did. It's always the wife. It's always the partner. Always. No matter what. No matter even if you think maybe not this time, it is. And there was a lot of, I don't want to say there was a lot of back and forth. The whole movie, I wasn't like, okay, she did it. Okay, she didn't do it. The whole movie, I thought, okay, I think she did it. So maybe I missed a little bit of that mental stimulation for me to kind of go back and forth. But then towards the end of the film, there were 2 instances that convinced me otherwise, that she didn't do it. So I ended up the film with she didn't do it.
And I think that's kind of at the crux of the major problem with this film is I feel like the film runs out of the gate with you leaning on the side. She did it. She probably did it, And as the case goes on, I feel like it's trying to make it a little bit more uncertain by trying to make Sandra not so tasteful and unfavorable and kind of, an egomaniac kind of oriented person. But I think while it does do some of that, it doesn't make her look bad. It actually makes her look more like an adult and trustworthy individual and makes Samuel look kind of like a baby.
Yes.
Which doesn't help the case for, Samuel and the prosecutor. So I'm just like, what angle is this movie trying to take? Because it seems to favor Sandra when it feels like they're trying to create this back and forth.
Yeah, the only reason, well, maybe not the only reason, but one of the big reasons why I thought she did it was because she lied about the bruises on her arm. So that, to me, kind of made it seem like, okay, our main character's lying. So there was something going on. Something she's not fully saying here.
And I think that brings us to the other important problem with this movie, because it also feels like it's trying to instill in you that not everything is as it seems. Nothing is as detailed as anyone could ever want it to be. You only show people what you want them to see at, different times, like Samuel with his therapist and stuff. Of course, his therapist is going to say that he's non-suicidal, because if Samuel was to bring that up, that's going to create a different situation between him and his therapist that maybe he actually enjoys. He maybe he enjoyed that relationship they had.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a way it was an escape for Samuel. So of course he's not going to bring up that he's suicidal.
No, and who wants their therapist to think they're bad?
Yeah. You want them on your side because they validate you.
Exactly. At least that's what I do in therapy.
I think that's what Samuel did too, at the very least. And so what I do think this movie does really well is it helps show you the rocky side of a marriage, and that is mostly shown through the argument, which is 10 out of 10. Phenomenal, yes. Great argument. I'd like to say the movie's worth watching just for that. It's a little long for that to be, your climax and the reason why. But there is some build up to it that I think makes it really worthwhile at the end of the day, especially in the court with the prosecutor who stole the show away. I don't know his name.
I think he's just the prosecutor.
Just the prosecutor.
On the wiki page.
Okay. Because, I think Sandra and Samuel both do a great job. But I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the guy from Oppenheimer when he's grilling all of Oppenheimer and his friends and stuff during that movie. He steals the show away in such an interesting way.
What I didn't like about the prosecutor, though, was how biased he was.
Yeah, that's also a problem I have with the movie, is it started to feel like it was an attack on Sandra and her personality and how she's depicted in these recordings and how she's a little bit of an egomaniac and feels like she's maybe a little better than some people, and he picks up on that and runs with it.
Yeah, and in an American court, or what we would see on TV anyway, I don't know about the real court system, that's quick to be called and ended. Like a defamation of character.
Yeah.
And here they ran with it, yeah.
That's also a really strange thing about this movie. It makes me wonder, it's almost a pass, I guess, but what's up with the French court system? It's out of fucking control. Everybody's talking when it's someone else's turn to talk, and they talk over each other and interrupt each other. It's just like, it's cool in a way, but it also feels like we're letting this happen intentionally to maybe, I don't know, obscure what people are saying and obfuscate what people are saying in some way and trying to distract.
I like that you bring that up, because when I was reading, it said that Justine was influenced a lot by the Amanda Knox case.
Which is?
An American student went to study abroad in Italy, and she had a roommate that was murdered, and she got accused of killing her roommate. And she was wrongfully accused. And she was just targeted as this, like, you know, slutty American who came to another country and is over here doing, you know, bad things. They treated the whole court case was a mess and super biased towards her and her character. And you know, she had a boyfriend. She liked to go out and do stuff. I mean, you know, Americans were sex crazed. So they ran with that, and I think she was wrongfully accused, but it was resolved in months. But I mean, still, that's months of her life, and she didn't do anything. And then they found the guy, and he was found guilty, and she got to come back to the States. So I can see the influence there with that mess of a court system and America's character being defamed like that. But I'm not sure. I thought that was a while ago, but maybe not. Okay, so it was 2015. That's kind of not long ago.
And I do like the angle that she is German, being trialed in a French Grenoble, right? Town or whatever it's called, a French court. And I also like the angle of the interpretation, how they're having to translate what she's saying, you know, through the teleprompter or whatnot.
Yeah, I like how annoyed they are that has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, they're pissed that they have to go out of their fucking way to accommodate someone.
And I like the element of this collective preconceived agreement that she's totally guilty of killing this guy.
Yeah, now that starts making sense with her being a foreigner, making her guilty just for that. And of course, she's the partner. So, you know, it's not just because she's a foreigner, but...
The bias, though, is balanced in a strange way, though.
Because it's so attacking, or because they're pulling things that everybody does, or almost like because she's looking out for herself, she's getting attacked. She wrote the book. She did what people always say they're going to do. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to get that job. I'm going to apply for that job. I'm going to do this that no one ever does, but she had the guts to do it. And now Samuel is the victim here.
And I guess, I mean, yes. And that is kind of where my frustration is with this movie. They make her look like just a high-functioning role model almost of an adult. And they make Samuel look like a baby. The investigation there's like, where is the investigation? Just where is the investigation? We almost entirely see a somewhat objective view of Sandra's position in the world. We're not seeing really through her eyes. We're with Daniel here and there. You know, we see his experiment and stuff.
Which was fucked up, by the way. I have an issue with that. His experiment.
Oh, it was awesome.
No.
That's some of the best acting of the year right there. With that dog.
The dog. With his tongue sticking out.
That was crazy.
That's how my nieces look when they fake, you know, when they're playing dead. They stick their tongue out like that.
It almost felt like the investigation was just protocol and they have to do it because of policy, but they're not actually trying to find any of the pieces of what happened because they've already decided that Sandra's guilty, but they can't. But because of their negligence in the investigation, they don't actually have anything, because everything just ends up being an attack on her behavior and confidence.
Which gets quickly debunked by her. Like, when they bring up that she's controlling and only allows them to speak English in the house, she's like, well, he speaks French. His native tongue is French. Mine is German. We agreed upon English as, you know, to meet in the middle, so it was fair. Like, all right. And then they bring up the cheating, and she's like, well, I did talk to him and telling him that I needed to have sex, and he was depressed, and we talked about it, and it was something that we agreed on. Like, well, there goes our theory.
Which is convenient, I guess, as far as the sex thing goes. I do like the speaking in English being kind of their common ground, because it it opens the door, not necessarily, but it does start to open the door of they each can't speak as fluent as they could if they were to speak in their native tongue, because who's to say they speak English as well as German or French?
Right.
From an American's perspective, they probably speak it better than Americans do, English, if based off of my experience with people from outside of the Americas.
Yeah. They start off saying, yeah, I don't speak English very well. Dude, that sentence
You're
already,
good.
you're good.
You're good to go. There's no doubt about that. Especially people who of academic lineages, right? Like Sandra here.
Yes.
So it doesn't kind of help build this case of, more. There's more to how people feel than what they're letting on, whether that be through their inability or ability to communicate, or what they're hiding from each other. Like we've already said, like with your therapist and her lying about hitting her arm. Or Daniel, who is and isn't reliable, right? Because he's
blind.
He's blind, which is an important part of his character, right?
Yes.
And he's also a kid who is like any other human being, but he's a kid, so he's kind of hard to put on, a soapbox and take him completely seriously, at least in a courtroom setting. I think we treat kids a little inferior to adults, so that it opens up that door to whether or not we can even let him kind of sway us one way or the other. Or is everything, do we have these preconceived notions of just kids aren't reliable in any way whatsoever, let alone that he's blind? While at the same time, Daniel is, or appears to be, the most honest character. He corrects himself in an apologetic way, right? He tells us some of the more like personal experiences with his dad and his mom, right? When it feels like Sandra isn't hiding anything per se, but she's only giving just enough, like she should, right? As someone who's defending themselves, you don't want to put yourself in any unnecessary corner.
Yeah, I really appreciate that Daniel took the time to send his mom away. Like, I need to be alone right now, so he could think about it, so he could experiment on his dog, because he's had a thought, which is very mature for a kid to do that. You think I'm sending my mom away? No. But he took the time to think about how this whole situation makes him feel. When you're given all this information that's so biased, I mean, how biased is a fight? Think about all the fights you've had with somebody and just how crazy you sound. I mean, I know I've had my fair share of, I could be put in a mental institution for just the things you say in the heat of the moment.
Even just the recording of it.
Yeah, especially a recording of it. You don't even get to see the actions behind how they're saying this stuff.
Or the before and after.
Yeah, you just hear the words. And the before and after is so important. So he's been handed all that information, and he still took the time to think about it. And yeah, I mean, Sandra plays it smart. She says what she needs to say. She justifies what she needs to justify, but there's no feeling in it.
Yeah, she's not very likable, but she's also not very unlikable.
Yeah. She's a matter-of-fact kind of person.
That's the German in her.
Mm.
Yeah, it makes the presence of those recordings, and that he did that, I guess, on a regular basis, at least towards the more heated sections of their relationship, it makes Samuel look like a dickhead. He's not only a sad boy, but he's doing this Amber Heard shit and trying to set this girl up.
Yes.
For some reason.
Who is recording fights like
that? That
this?
is psychotic.
Yes. Dude is psycho. That's the first thing I thought when they said there's a tape. I'm like, wait a minute. There's a tape?
Yeah.
There's several tapes?
Yeah. She better be beating the shit out of you. That's like the only excuse for that. In some way or another. I guess it doesn't need to be physical, but there needs to be some violence there. But the tapes kind of backfire, I think, on Samuel, and make him look like he's just taking out on all these things he wish would have happened to him, like the book thing, or just
The guilt for Daniel's
Yeah,
accident.
the guilt. It looks like he just is taking all this stuff out on Sandra. So that's what confuses me, because what's the point of this movie? We're investigating Sandra, right? But we're not really. Like, what is happening here? Is there a woman feminist slant that we're supposed to cheer for Sandra? I really don't. I don't know.
Or are we just supposed to hate on the victims? Not necessarily cheer for Sandra, but get over all these, I don't know, men that are playing victims and trying to bring you down? Because I kind of see it with the Amanda Knox case of protecting women who are, I don't know, strong or whatever. You know, Sandra here has a strong character. She's going to do what she's going to do, and she's going to go after what she wants to go after. If there's obstacles, she's going to face them. Like, she's just a matter-of-fact person. You deal with it as you go.
Which is sort of admirable, if you ask me.
Yes.
Woman or not.
That's what I'm saying, strong. And then Amanda Knox is, maybe she explored her sexuality and wasn't ashamed of it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that, but then I don't get the Samuel side of it.
I mean, exactly. He is a victim. He's a victim of himself. He's obviously experienced some imposter syndrome. He is a pretty interesting character and gives a great argument of performance, of course. That whole argument it's awesome. It's awesome. Can't take anything away from that performative piece.
Yes.
But you almost feel like this investigation would have kind of turned into an investigation of Samuel in the way the characters were displayed, you know? And less of an investigation of what and how, what happened, the incident of him dying, and more of an investigation of his personality and behavior through his, so-called therapist and friends or whatever, and less of a focus on Sandra in that way, because Sandra's the adult here. Sandra didn't kill herself. He didn't think about killing herself.
First of all, yeah, let's start there.
Right? I know it's a tough thing to want to kill yourself, to have the feelings, but it's sort of an immature thing to do, to execute. Excuse the pun.
Oh, damn.
So I'm just struggling with, I feel like the movie's trying to get me to balance this Sandra thing, because I know Justine here, our director, didn't let Sandra, the actor, that her name is Sandra in real life too. It's kind of funny. The Sandra character is played by a girl named Sandra. I don't know her last name. And then Samuel, same thing. His real name is Samuel. So that's kind of a fun thing. But she was explicit in not being conclusive about whether or not she did it. With us, the audience, and with Sandra, the actor herself. She didn't tell her one way or the other. Which I get for maybe a directorial perspective, that you don't want the actor to maybe be too deceptive. You want him to live in this vague world because you want the message in the movie to come across as sterile and vague as possible. Maybe, but it just comes across like it's supposed to open up that door of, well, maybe she did do it, maybe she didn't do it. It really, the door, I feel like, gets tightly welded shut after the kid.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm with you. I wasn't at first, but thinking about it, I was just like, man, they really wrote themselves in a corner with the kid.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just sympathetic to a kid. Maybe he should have been younger. Maybe he should have been 7, because I think he was 11 or 12. That's almost an adult in my eyes, in a thinking capacity.
Sure. So you think a younger kid would have helped with the did she or didn't she?
It could have, but I think there's too many other things that are sort of wrong with the focus and the storytelling of the film.
Yeah, the kid thing is what definitely flipped it for me, because he says, when I think about my mom, whether she did it, I'm confused. I can't picture it. But when I think about my dad, if he killed himself, I can definitely understand it.
And imagine a 7-year-old saying that.
I can't imagine a 7-year-old.
It would be a little weird. It almost would feel like, did someone tell you to say that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
because
he's
7-year-olds don't say that. Yeah.
yeah, he's 11. I think that's what he is. That's
That's
old enough.
that's old enough to know your feelings and be saying that kind of thing. So that right there flipped it for me. I'm like, okay, he's the kid. He's this kid who is blind, so he has to rely on his feelings. And for some reason, him being blind makes how he feels things
I think that's a little ironic too.
more valid.
That's well said. Well fucking said.
And then the last thing Sandra says towards the end of the movie is what completely sealed it for me, that she didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's when she says, when you win, it's just over. And she's just kind of not sad. She's not sad about the situation. She's just kind of like, okay, now what? I don't know how to put that feeling into one word. But I don't know. That really spoke to me, because if she had done it, she would be a little bit happier about it. But she was just sad that this was a waste of her time. Yeah, she won this case, but what did she really win? Nothing. She still lost her husband.
Yeah, she still sort of loses in the end. We don't know enough about them, if whether or not she is happy to restart in that way. We don't really know anything about him.
I mean, she seems like she would be. She seems like if he came up to her and said, okay, you know what? I'm sorry, and I'm going to try to get better. And she's like, all right, perfect. Try to get better. Write that book. Do what you need to do. I don't know. That's just based off of everything. That just seems like how she would react.
Yes.
And then just, I don't know, that end did it for me. And then the end, when she comes home, she kisses her kid. Then she goes and lays down on the couch or mattress or the bed, whatever. And then the dog comes up to her. And then they're there together.
Well, I think that was Samuel's like daybed in his office or whatever.
That's right. But the dog sensed in a way that it's all okay. You're okay. Kid's okay. Hopefully he doesn't try to kill me again, but we're all going to be okay, and you didn't do it, basically. So I don't know if I was supposed... Well, see, it's just confusing, because the whole time I thought she did it, but then these things sealed it for me, but it's not like I was wishy-washy, and then... I don't know, but maybe I should have been paying more attention the whole time. It was just a bit too slow for me to be fully paying attention to everything that was going on and what was being said.
I think that's partially because the case they build in between the indictment and the meetings that she has with her lawyer and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's trying to build the case of the uncertainty within Sandra of whether or not she did it, but neglecting why I should care.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part.
Yes. They did do a great job of making Samuel look like the dumbass here. And I know we've said it, but
and I think it's backfiring. Don't think it's supposed to be like that.
Well, now that I think about it, he starts off being a total dick by playing first of all, the most annoying song I've ever heard in my life, while his wife is trying to do an interview for her book. And he puts it on repeat. Like, you do it one time for the getting it out of your system, but then you're putting it on repeat. You being a fucking malicious jerk.
Maybe you could say it's right out of the gate, it starts off being a little manipulative, where of course Sandra's going to kill this guy. He's annoying. It's not building a case for us. It's just, he's annoying. I could kill him right now kind of thing. It's just like, well, that's not a case to actually kill someone, especially in a mega dramatic movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or, dramatically depicted at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's part of me that tells me I should like this movie a little bit more, but I think it's a little bit of, I think it has a little bit of a disguise of being great, and I think it's a little flat in a lot of areas, and I think that through line of the prosecutor and the chaoticness of the court and those couple of scenes with Daniel in the court and the experiment and then the fight, they're almost spread out enough that it really kind of holds it together on an entertainment level, maybe, of like or maybe on an artistic level of just performative pieces, that I feel like people are being a little misled in its supposed masterclassness. I feel like, because this film's being talked about like it's, one of the greatest film of 2023, one of at the very least, and it feels a little mediocre for the most part, kind of in fancy sheep's clothing or something,
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's being talked about like it's a wonderful, cohesive story and such a drama piece. And oh my God, I can't get over how people are saying that this is the best performance of 2023.
Maybe the best female performance.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, she didn't stand out to me as like, oh my God, she's gonna be nominated for sure. Like that wasn't coming out of my mouth. And honestly, I pretty much liked all the scenes with Daniel, when Daniel is taking his dog for a walk, and I didn't know he was blind then. When he finds the dad, that was crazy. That was a crazy shot. The dad laying there and all the blood coming out with the white snow. That's a big contrast, and that was visually good. And then we find out he's blind, so everything else he does is just awesome. Him playing the piano. Not saying that he had the best performance of 2023, but those were probably my favorite parts. Him telling us his story, him sending his mom away. How did you feel about the title?
It helps, funny enough, it helps tie in the fact that this movie doesn't know exactly what it is. Because you'd feel like there's a little, after reading the title, you'd feel like there would be a little bit more of an investigation happening, and less of an attack on an individual.
Yes. Like the word anatomy sounds so
procedural.
So textbook.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know if maybe there's a translation thing there. Maybe the word anatomy in French means something else, less procedural like that. But just, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't like the title. I don't think it fits the movie.
I like the title. I just don't think it fits the movie. I don't like the title with this movie.
Okay, yeah.
I like
the title's fine.
I like the phrase of anatomy of something. That's a easy, good title, I feel like.
Yeah. That's better put. It doesn't fit this movie, and I don't like that it doesn't fit this movie. And I normally don't have a problem with titles. They're either just okay or they're fine. They fit what I'm seeing, at least. But this one gave me an issue.
Yeah, totally. And I think that just is simply because it immediately, right out of the gate, before the first scene even plays, that title indicates something that this movie isn't. And that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. Whether it's a translation problem or not, it should have been localized to make a little more sense in that way. Because the film is in mostly English, I would imagine that title is pretty smooth. It's probably the original title. Everything else is probably translated in other directions.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, in the wiki page, it says that Variety, the magazine, which I didn't know that. I didn't know what it was. But they described it as a Hitchcockian procedural thriller. Apparently, when you click on Hitchcockian on the wiki page, it gives you some characteristics of some elements that are considered Hitchcockian, which, I don't know, I found that kind of interesting. Do we have that with other directors?
Yeah, we have that with...
Like a wiki page with characteristics? I know there's terms, like Lynchian and whatnot.
I would assume, yes, especially with some of the old guys.
But Hitchcock is old, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an old guy. I would guess Spielbergian.
You think that's one?
Had a wiki page. I don't know, but I would guess that one to have one, because that one seems to be...
I guess they have to have characteristics about their films that have been...
Yeah, some of them are hard to define.
Yeah, yeah, because there's someone here that are silly, because it says climactic plot twist. The cool platinum blonde. An innocent man accused. And this one's funny. Tension building through suspense to the point where the audience enjoys seeing the character in a life-threatening situation. example, Vertigo. I don't know if I like this,
Yeah.
but it was just interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's funny. I don't think that's a very well thought out description. I'm not a Hitchcock expert or fan yet. I haven't seen really any Hitchcock, to be honest. But that sounds like to me to be some of the essence of just storytelling. Yeah, I don't really like that kind of description because that starts to detail the nut of sophisticated storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of more of the train of thought where if something is Lynchian, there's an element of like specific character interactions or dialogue that might feel Lynchian, but it's the sum of the parts, because the mood is just as important. And the mood is hard to define in every movie, compared to another. So I can't help but to believe and say that without sufficient examples, or just one specific example would be enough, I wouldn't say it's Hitchcockian. But I'm not a Hitchcock fan, so it's hard for me to say one way or the other.
Yeah. Same here. I just thought it was interesting how vague it can possibly be.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah.
We need a better vocabulary in the way we talk about modern art, contemporary art. All right, man. Well, that was a fun talk. Did you have fun? Did you get swayed one way or the other?
Yeah, maybe I like it a point or two higher. Not a point or two. 0 point or higher.
Yeah, on the letterbox scale.
Yeah.
I hear you. It's kind of funny. I don't love this movie, but I think there is something really sophisticated and intellectually kind of interesting here. I think it just fails in the best ways possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not just a movie not knowing what it is, but it's a movie thinking it knows what it is, but it just isn't. I don't know. I don't know if that's any better.
Like, it doesn't deliver what it's trying to give you. It's not defined.
Yeah.
And it takes too long.
It does take too long. This movie is undeniably, I think, too long. That's the one thing that probably should have been rethought out completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, do you have a budget guess for me here today?
I do. My budget guess is $5 million. That's all I got. I don't know why. That's just the number that popped in my head. I just felt it.
It's a good guess, actually.
Oh.
6.7. The budget was
6.7?
Not bad. Wow. Not bad.
I'm pretty close.
Well, man, here we go. Here's the final note that is so obnoxious to bring up again and again, but over on Letterboxd it has a 4.2.
No.
It's
not 4.2 territory whatsoever.
It's super loved.
Interesting. I don't know what to say about that.
What would you give it?
I gave it a 1.5. Maybe after talking about it, I could bump it up to a 2, but I'd have to think about it a little more. But that's where I'm at, 1.52.
Yeah, I'm living in the 2.53 realm. I can't get away from that 2.5 just because it's a very sophisticated movie, whether I liked it very much or not, kind of thing. But that 3 is that there's something kind of academic about it that I can't help but to want to appreciate it a little bit more. So it's just I'm living in that weird space with it.
Well, that's probably what those 4s are also thinking. Like, there's something there that I like, so I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah.
But not really thinking about it. I don't know. I just felt like it was too slow for me to really focus on a lot. And I don't like that. I don't like that in a movie. I don't like a movie feeling slow. You're not about to bore me for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours, really.
A boring movie is arguably the worst offense. So that is unfortunate. You're giving it a lot if it bored you for 2 hours. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. Thank you for watching this movie with me. I know it was a little bit of a drag.
Yeah, I guess there was enough throughout it that I'm like, okay, bored. Oh, interested. Bored. Okay, interested for like 2 seconds. All right, bored.
They didn't make you care enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how great your performances are. I don't care how, muted and beautiful your shots are purely based off of your environment. You got to make me care. And maybe Justine disagrees. Maybe she does care maybe she does think these characters are worth caring about. I don't know. Yeah, good job on your budget guess. I was surprised to hear that. I was surprised.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, nice. All right, you guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Hopefully there's something worth taking away from this. Hopefully you guys won't be too upset about our on the fence-ness about this. I thought we were going to be honest, when the movie started rolling, I thought I was going to really like it and you're going to be bored by it. But we ended up kind of a little bit more in the middle together. What?
That's funny.
Yeah. So, watch the movie. It's an interesting watch.
I guess it is. Go watch it.
So, but thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmsteins. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on patreon.com/Filmsteins, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, all the goods. And remember to leave nice reviews, comments, thoughts, and ideas all over our social media and other platforms. Come to our Patreon, request a movie. That would be rad.
Rad.
But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed our discussion, gained some new insights and perspectives in the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins, signing off.